Hi everyone, I'm Jenny Wetter with Infinity Real Estate, and I'm excited to be here today continuing my series on active and vibrant retirement in Gig Harbor. So it is a lovely January day, and I thought that it would be appropriate to talk to you a little bit about pros and cons of living in this area. Partly because if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I'm a pretty big cheerleader for this area, and I'm starting to worry that if I don't tell you something that isn't perfect about Gig Harbor, you might not take me seriously. So, as I was trying to come up with the outline for pros and cons, I realized that in some ways the topics are either or. So, the biggest and first thing we're going to talk about is the weather. That's why we decided to film today. But the weather is a pro and a con, depending on the season and also depending on your preference. So you probably heard from me or others that the summers in Gig Harbor are truly spectacular. There's probably nowhere else you would want to be, and I'm going to go into some details about that. But the winters, they have their challenges, but they are also fantastic. And if you can see boats behind me and you can see other things going on, you'll realize that no matter what the weather, life doesn't stop here, and that's one of the great things about the area. Okay, daylight hours. With the exception of Alaska, the swings that we have in the numbers of our hours of daylight between winter or summer are what I believe to be the most in the country. So, starting with this time of year, late December, early January, we have a whopping 8.5 hours of daylight. That means that it's not going to be fully light in the morning until after 8 o'clock, and most days by 4, it's starting to get dark. What does that mean? Well, you just protract your activities into a shorter window of time. But the flip side is we have the exact opposite in the summer. We have over 16 hours of daylight at the summer solstice. Hopefully you're a morning person because the sun's going to start to come up by 4:30, and it's still going to be light out just after the sun sets at 10 p.m., which is pretty amazing. What about sun? Lots of people ask about sunlight, especially if they're coming from areas where they're used to the sun shining all the time. I think I will start with the positive, which is in the summer, the sun shines more than 70% of the time. Almost all of our days are bright and clear, and considering they are 16 hours long, that's a lot of sunlight. Conversely, however, we have 26% clear days in the winter. But guess what? We're filming today. It's not considered a clear day. Technically, the sun isn't out, but it's gorgeous, and you can see the beautiful scenery around me. There's people all around me running and walking and doing their thing, so it really just doesn't stop anybody. Lots of people always ask me, what about the rain? How much does it rain? I saw different estimates of average annual rainfall, so I'm not going to even try to go into it, but there was one stat that I thought was pretty compelling that I will go ahead and share. Apparently, in the winter between November and March, 50% of the days could have rainfall. I know that seems like a lot, but once again, fast forward to the summer when very, very few days have rainfall. We do have a peak rainfall in November where we could have an annual amount of up to about 8 inches. That does seem like a lot. In August, however, our average is less than 1/2 inch. As far as temperatures, I was born and raised in the Midwest, so to me, our entire temperature range from winter all the way through summer is considered a pro, because for me, it's very temperate. That being said, if you're moving from a warm area like Arizona or California or Florida, you probably think that it's rather cold here. Our average winter temperatures are 45 degrees. Our average summer temperatures are only 75. So it makes Washington and, of course, Gig Harbor one of the most temperate areas in the country, meaning our weather year-long is relatively pleasant. So what are the takeaways with all of that? Well, again, summer's absolutely glorious. You are not going to want to travel. You're not going to want to be anywhere in the summer. The reality of the winter, they are gray, our days are kind of short, and the winters can seem long and wet. So my best piece of advice to anyone considering moving here, particularly in your first couple years, if you're coming from a climate that's particularly sunny or warm, the first couple winters are going to seem tough. My best advice, take a sunny vacation to either a ski resort where there's a lot of sun or a warm destination. Even just a week is gonna make coming back here fabulous. Oh, and on that note, location is a huge pro for Gig Harbor. We're located only about 35 minutes from SeaTac without traffic. That means you can be to a sunny or a warm destination even faster. And a little tidbit, Alaska Airlines is based out of Seattle and they are expanding rapidly to all kinds of new destinations. And they just bought Hawaiian Air. So they're increasing their number of daily flights to Hawaii so you can hop, skip, and a jump to any sunny destination you want. Before we move on to a completely different topic, and we're still talking about weather and climate, I think it's worth mentioning some additional things that I think are pros regarding living in Gig Harbor and in Washington. For one, yes, it rains here, but because of that, we have abundant oxygen, we have abundant green, and we have abundant water. We are not going to run out of drinking water, folks. I have to tell you very happily that that is a very, very low risk in this area. Another thing that's important, especially in Western Washington, is our risk of wildfires is very, very low because it takes until well into the summer for everything to dry out to the point where there would be danger. All right, moving on from the weather and the climate. I've said many times Gig Harbor is an extremely desirable place to live. That means lots of people are moving here, even though we try to dissuade them sometimes with stories about our bad weather and stuff. But again, the reality is lots of people are moving here. It's a crazy statistic because the city of Gig Harbor is kind of small compared to this wider area. But between 2010 and the 2020 census, the city of Gig Harbor grew in population by 69%. I know that's a crazy stat, but it just means overall, there are a lot more people coming to the area. But we started out as a small town with small town infrastructure, and we have so much coastline, it makes building roads and intersections kind of a tough thing. So we have a lot more people and a lot more congestion than we used to have. At the end of the day, I guess it all comes down to perspective. Certainly to some, there's more congestion happening, and that's not a good thing. But if you're moving from one of the big cities, you probably think there's no such thing as traffic when you come to Gig Harbor. The reality is, it is what it is. We are growing because it's such a great place to live, but you can still easily get around and you can get to all the great places you want to go without a problem. I have another whole video on cost of living in this area, but I think it's worth pointing out that the cost of living, particularly of housing in Gig Harbor, is quite high. So maybe you want to consider that a con. Gig Harbor has by far higher median and average prices than all of Pierce County and all of the Olympic Peninsula, with the exception of Bainbridge Island. At the end of 2024, our median price in Gig Harbor was about $850,000, and our average price came in at over $1 million. So if you're moving from an area that's lower cost, you might find it to be sticker shock here. Again, that being said, if you're moving from one of the major metro areas that are high cost, you might consider all the benefits of what you can get here for $1 million to be a bargain. Why are our median prices so high? Well, all you have to do is look around me. You might not know this little tidbit, but we have over 100 miles of coastline in Greater Gig Harbor. That means that we have so many waterfront and water view houses to choose from, but of course, those are always going to be more expensive. Additionally to that, this is just a very highly desirable place to live, and we don't have enough houses to go around for everybody, and so that increases the overall cost. All right, just a couple of more things I want to point out, questions that I get from clients that I think are worth discussing. One of them is politics. What are our politics? Well, again, this could be a pro or a con depending on who you are, but Gig Harbor is very purple. The nice thing about being purple is you have people from all walks of life, different perspectives, and because we're such a friendly community, we all get along really well. I know that one of my other videos goes into like the top 10 reasons to move to Gig Harbor, so you can definitely check that out because I talk about a lot of these things in more detail. But we have no state income tax. I'm pretty sure it's going to be hard to call that a con no matter how you look at it. Because of our incredible natural surroundings, it is exceptionally beautiful all of the time, and there are all kinds of activities, indoor and outdoor, but especially outdoor, that you can do all year round. One thing I haven't touched on yet is the career opportunities that are here. People say to me, well, what do people do who live in Gig Harbor? Because of our accessibility to Tacoma and Seattle, as well as SeaTac and the two major military bases, both within 30 minutes of each other, we have a myriad of career opportunities in every kind of profession that are easily commutable, or lots of people from Gig Harbor work from home. I'm sure you have lots more questions, and like I said, I wanted to share a few things about Gig Harbor that maybe aren't perfect, just so you know that I'm for real and I'm not trying to blow smoke every time I talk to you on one of my videos. But I appreciate your time. I would love to answer any of your other questions. Please reach out anytime, like and subscribe to my videos, and I look forward to hearing from you.